lot of fears that people have around vaccines have to do with adjuvants, and they believe that these heavy metals are getting into their blood and, causing autism and affecting their bodies in very adverse ways.
The jury is still out on whether adjuvants cause any side effects. Adjuvants are necessary in certain types of vaccines, either in the inactivated ones or protein ones. You want to have an adjuvant because what an adjuvant does, as the word says, it helps build up the immune response. So that's all that an adjuvant is there for. We've been using adjuvants like aluminum salts, and these are kind of metal-based adjuvants, but they're also biological adjuvants. So vaccines can contain both. I know that a lot of the controversy and a lot of the problem comes from the aluminum piece. That's a little bit of a myth to be debunked, because there is actually more aluminum in breast milk than there is in vaccines. So if really aluminum was responsible for autism, then you would have almost every child that has been breastfed to have aluminum. Aluminum is everywhere. It's a little bit like plastic. It's absolutely in almost everything that we consume. It's in the food chain, and everybody has a lot of aluminum in themselves. When it comes to metals, again, let's remember that if we are worried about metals, there is a lot of iron, which is a very good conductor, and copper, which is also a very good conductor, in our own blood, and they are constitutive pieces of our own physiology. We wouldn't be able to function without them. So we are already antennas. We don't need any more metal to make us more of an antenna. That's where we are. We already conduct electromagnetic energy very efficiently, and that's why if a lightning strikes you and you are naked foot on the ground, you likely survive because you conduct energy. The problem about adjuvants is that by eliciting an immune response, they can cause autoimmune diseases. And autism has been identified as a potential disease with a inflammatory or potentially autoimmune cause. So in that respect, anything that stimulates the immune system can actually trigger an immune reaction. But then again, we know that cigarette smoke can trigger an immune reaction, and everybody that was born in the 50s and 60s has been exposed to a lot of cigarette smoke, even from their smoking mothers, right? Hundreds of substances can create inflammation and create an immune reaction. The hygiene hypothesis, so the lack of exposure to external antigens that happens in an urban environment, can also cause problems with the immune system. What I'm trying to say is that to apportion fault to the vaccines as a sole culprit of potential health problems is, again, very narrow-minded, and you need to be short-sighted, because it excludes all of the other conditions that come with modern living and society that affect our immunological responses as much as any vaccine can do.
Autism, for example, there's obviously been a rise in at least classifications of autism in the human population. And you could find any correlation. There's plenty of correlations to that rise that you could try to draw to, including vaccinations. But you've also got rises in heavy metals in the general air and water, right, because of industrialization, and so it's confounding factors all over the place.
But also, like autism, like chronic fatigue syndromes, like everything else, you only start diagnosing once you start describing them, right? So all of a sudden you have new diseases and you say, oh, the new diseases. They're not new diseases. The only diseases that we are diagnosing now, whereas autism was probably, severe people with severe autism probably ended up in mental institutions 100 years ago, right? And were never recognized as being autistic. People with autism spectrum disorder used to be classed as having developmental deficiencies or learning disabilities. Now we have a diagnosis, and standards for looking at autism. So now the numbers are growing, but that doesn't mean that they didn't exist before.
It would be nice to find a silver bullet. It would be nice to find someone to blame, but that's a human tendency. That's a brain tendency to try to anthropomorphize the enemy when the enemy is parts of our culture, parts of our belief
way of
system.
living. Yes. Then why don't you go into a forest with no electricity? There have been studies that show that people that live under electric pylons have a higher incidence of cancer than people that don't. Where you only drink spring water from a clean source, and good luck with finding it. You don't interact with any humans other than for transactional things, and you live in your own tribe. If you like to drive your car, if you like to buy your clothes from Amazon, if you like to go to retreats and enjoy yoga classes and lay on your mat, you're already contributing to pollution. Is it the healthiest way we should live and we could live? No. Is it the pharmaceutical industry's sole fault for the fact that we are living in a way where new diseases are coming out and new conditions are coming out? No. Have we doubled the life expectancy of humans in the last 150 years? Yes. Right? So we're
clearly doing some things right, so even while other things are getting worse.
Right. So we need to strike a balance. There is no 100% right and 100% wrong in any system.